Hello and welcome to IABM TV. Today I'm joined in the TV studio by Toumo Tolonen, Director Pro Group Europe at Shure. Toumo, welcome to IABM TV.
Thank you very much.
So let's talk digital wireless. So UHF spectrum across the world continues to shrink, but at the same time usage of channels in production continues to increase. So what sort of challenges does this produce?
I'd probably say this is one of the more unknown things that that's facing the industry, and it's of massive concern. You and I are sitting here today. We both have wireless microphones on us. But if you look at larger productions, across the broadcast industry, wireless devices are always concealed on the body, and yet it's used to make content which we view on the TV every night. And the reason wireless microphones are critical is it's the first piece of equipment in the signal chain.
Yeah.
So if we compromise the signal of the wireless microphone when you're either making a feature film or broadcasting, on site location, whatever it is, if we compromise that signal, obviously everything downstream is disrupted. The reason it's become an issue is wireless microphones use what we refer to as UHF spectrum. But over the last handful of years or decade or so, we've seen in every continent and every country UHF spectrum being allocated to the mobile sector. So you've probably heard of this, going from analog to digital terrestrial transmitting. But what's happening during that phase is that the spectrum that we've utilized previously is being allocated to the mobile sector. So if you look at this over a span of the last 10 or so years, we arguably had a fair amount of spectrum going back a decade or so ago. And throughout that time, the usage of wireless microphones and content production has only continued to increase. And arguably, we require that spectrum to continue producing this content, world-class content. But the means for doing so are being continuously reduced. And I think it's fairly an unknown subject in the sense that it really is a science and an art for those technicians that work on the shows. You conceal the microphones as well as the transmitters into the costumes or into wigs if you're in theatre. So it really is an unknown subject for most people.
Okay, and so Shure has spent a lot of time talking to customers about what a high-tier digital product should be. Yeah. And how important, you mentioned customers a minute ago, but how important is it to talk to your customers and understand what they need and want?
Oh, I think it's absolutely vital. For us to make products that the customers want and are desirable, they have to be products that address some of these issues which we just talked about, but also offer features that work together in the workflow. So as these issues of spectrum erosion started to appear around the world, we made a pretty conscientious effort of going to talk to our customers, understand what their workflow is now, what the future holds for them, and what some of the issues are that they face right now. And I don't think it's any coincidence, that the products that we're putting out now are leading edge, cutting edge, and hugely desirable. And the key to that is understanding what the customers want, and it's
collaborating with them.
It's a great place to be. We can talk to the end users, and probably the most rewarding of it is you take like a 10-year development cycle. These products are now out in the marketplace, and even here at IBC, being at the stand, hearing customers say, it's great because this product does X, Y, and Z, and it kind of vindicates, it validates all that stuff that we've done over the last decade. So that's probably one of the most rewarding aspects of all of that.
And so an example of some of this collaboration you've done with customers is Axient Digital.
Yes.
Can you tell us about this, how it came about, what it does, and how it helps customers?
Well, so Axient Digital is our high-tier wireless system. You see it in use from any high-tier broadcast application. I mentioned a few of them, from feature filmmaking to made-for-TV shows, obviously just ENG as well as studio-based news. So Axient Digital, without taking too much of your time, I'd probably say one of the highlights there really is the small transmitter we've made. So especially in the digital realm, the transmitters tend to be larger because you need a large battery on the back of it to power it. So we've designed a small transmitter that has rounded edges and has no external antenna. So even whenever we put, and you're familiar with wearing radio transmitters, the antenna is always an additional thing that gets in the way. You're trying to hide it. Where do you put it? It can break. It's a point of entry for a sweat. So it really is leading edge in the sense that it's the world's first small transmitter that doesn't have an external antenna, and the response for that has been just immense from broadcasters around the world.
And so how have the advances in technology helped your customers when it comes to putting on, big productions or big events or anything? How has that technological change helped them?
We'll probably look there in terms of if we start talking about channel count. So, a large TV production, take something like, your X Factor or The Voice or something, you're commonly running near 100 channels of wireless.
Yeah.
And this goes back to the whole thing I said, most people don't even recognize how many channels you run on these. So if you put this together with, I mentioned about spectrum diminishing, historically we'd be able to run these analog systems in the amount of spectrum we had. But with this spectrum disappearing right now, that capacity is just, it's simply not possible. Whereas the new digital systems, because of the changes in the modulation scheme, and they're simply more efficient and predictable in terms of their characteristics when they're on air, we're able to stack channels closer to one another and still meet these demands that these productions have.
Yeah.
And and this is why this issue is such a big thing, because if we don't keep up to date with the technology, you seriously risk production quality being reduced, because you simply don't have the capacity to put those channels on air. And the other aspect that drives it is creativity, of course, as well. The fact that you can have talent on stage without cabled microphones, you can do whatever you want, and producers and directors use that to their advantage. So in that sense, being able to run high number of channels on air despite this diminishing UHF spectrum has been a big game changer.
Okay, excellent. Well, Toumo, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much. My pleasure.
You can find out more about Axient Digital and all the rest of Shure's products at shure.com.